Ladies and gentlemen, we are back! Back for another episode of the Draxx Life podcast, where we'll chat about some of the weird and the wondrous. Let's get to the show. We're live. Okay, we're back with another episode of the Draxx Life. I have the usual partner in crime, Bobby A, and I'm going to kick it to him. That's the usual drill. It's pretty much this is becoming what's on Bobby A's mind for the week.
Yeah.
So, Bobby A, what is on your mind today?
So I've been thinking a lot, and I'll go into this more later. I've been thinking a lot about what a single life is as we approach our 40s, because let's have it right, we're in our late 30s now. As we approach our midlife, what it's like being single versus what it is to be have a partner and have children. So
Okay.
and
We're getting deep today, guys.
Yeah. So jumping off of that, I have a few thoughts. So
Okay.
there's one thing that sprung to mind immediately.
Well, hold on. Before, I don't want to affect your.
Yeah.
I know you have your note cards, but what made you?
I was just going to.
Okay, perfect. Yeah, like why is this on the forefront of your mind today?
Because for two reasons. One, I had a conversation with a few people about this very topic within the last week, and also I'm a big fan of Bill Maher. I know he has this show on HBO. He's still a stand-up comedian, but he had a real good monologue, or editorial, he calls it. I would call it an editorial, but in video spoken format, not a New York Times written format. He had an editorial about how single people, the not just the quantity of single people is considerably risen within the last, I would say, 5 to 10 years. It's the number, the data that he showed, or was pretty stark, actually. And he also had some very insightful, and obviously he throws in the humor with it as well, because his background is stand-up comedy. So he had a nice editorial a couple weeks ago, and he's had some throughout the years of his show, where I was like, yeah, that makes a lot of sense. It does, but I'll explain why in a second. And then second, Nikki Glaser also talked about Nikki. For those who don't know, Nikki Glaser she's probably the biggest comedian currently right now because of what happened during the Tom Brady roast, where she absolutely killed it. So I believe she said she's the most Googled comedian, right? I mean,
who knows? But
probably Joe Rogan. It's probably really is Joe Rogan, but Nikki Glaser is the most Googled comedian within the last couple months, and off the back of her great performance at the Tom Brady roast. So she was talking about how she's a woman, she's female, she's in her 40s, or just entering her 40s. I believe she just turned 40 a couple months ago. Okay. And she said she's glad she doesn't have children. She has a partner, but she's not married, and she doesn't have children. Okay. So she has a boyfriend, but no children, unmarried. She's never once been married. And she said this is very advantageous to her because in a trite explanation, it's not even trite, it's actually kind of cool that she does this. She has been traveling around the world, so doing stand-up, but also following Taylor Swift around the world. So Argentina, Brazil, like South America, Europe, North America. She's gone to 18 Taylor Swift concerts.
Don't know if that's something you should be like boasting about. But...
No. 18 in 15 months, she said. I've gone to 18. But the salient point, that's not really the meat of what I want to get into. The salient point is, she said, I would never have been able to do that if I had children and I
Sure.
was married.
Sure. Okay.
Yeah, and the what struck me, like the what struck the match for me was what she said after that, and she said, "Everyone tells me, oh, it must be nice. It must be nice having all this free time. It must be nice." Which I want to bring up, which led me to the stigma of someone that's single. You know what I'm saying? That,
Okay.
oh, they being single is the derogatory thing is you have no responsibilities,
Uh-huh.
so you could do whatever you want at any time. You don't have to think about someone else's day as well as your own. You
Okay.
see what I'm saying? So that's what she was saying. So then she goes where she turned it around and she said the other point is, why doesn't anyone say, oh, it must be nice to have children and to be a mother and to be a father? No one mocks you for that, but they'll mock you for going to Taylor Swift concerts
I mean,
because
I don't. Okay.
you see
So so
you
get
see
this.
you see where I'm trying to get
Make
at.
your case. So your
Yeah,
case is essentially that you feel that there is a
I feel
negative
like,
stigma on
yeah,
someone who's single past a certain age.
correct. There's an
Okay.
unfair stigma. It is fading away. I will give you that because even imagine back then when we were growing up, Chris, in the
Uh-huh.
'90s, where it was almost taboo to be
Maybe.
it kind of was though. It
I
kind
mean,
no one will say it to your face,
you grew up
but
in New York. I mean,
yeah,
like, okay, go ahead, but make your case because I'm going to probably disagree on a lot
yeah,
of your points. So go
yeah.
ahead. I don't
All
want to
right.
interrupt you.
No. So my point is now we're seeing the rise of the single lifestyle, and in a way where people are not judging you, or even though they will never say it to your face, but they're still thinking about it. So I'll use myself as a personal example. He's like, "Oh, this guy is a decent looking fella. He's smart. He's funny. He's cool to be around. Why are you almost 40 and you've never been married and you have no children?" They'll think about that, but they'll never bring it up. Do you I know you know that's true. And we're probably going to disagree in a lot of this shit, but that's
Yeah, I mean,
that because
again, I two couple. Okay,
yeah,
so let's get into the meat of it now. So,
yeah,
like, okay, I got what we're talking about.
yeah,
So, one, I would say Bill Maher. You like Bill Maher? I'm not really a huge fan of him, but like
yeah.
when he brought up all of that data, was he bending it towards a positive or a negative?
He was bending it positively, as in, if you want to start a family, you go do your thing. I have nothing wrong with
But
that.
then,
He
but
wasn't trying to dunk on that
no,
lifestyle.
but
You know
was
what
he
I'm saying?
saying that like an increase? Like you said, he brought up data showing there's more single people. Like that's like a data point.
Yeah.
What was like that could be interpreted as a good thing or a bad thing. So what was
I
his take on the data?
His take on the data was being single shouldn't be seen as something that's either
Uh,
you've
and,
made poor
yeah.
decisions or you let me turn it
Uh,
around. I think I got it better this time. Let me explain. His take overall take was, if I choose to be single and have no kids and no family in my entire life, everyone should be cool with that.
okay.
That was the overall take.
I
Yeah.
mean, I get that. I mean,
Yeah.
that's like, but that's you could apply that to like anything in your life, right? If you
Yeah.
choose to like shave your
It's a
head
personal choice.
and
It's not
like chop off your eyebrows,
yeah.
like it's maybe people will find that odd, but
Yeah.
like you're free to do it. But
Yeah,
on
but
the other
they
hand,
shouldn't find it odd. That's what his point is. It
but
shouldn't be odd, and you shouldn't comment on my lifestyle because of it. That
y-
was so he was a
okay.
little he went a little further than you did. Yeah.
Hmm. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, it's interesting. It's like I guess it's an interesting topic. It's one of those things where like you have to always like what is the expression? The median is the message. Like he chose a bachelor's life, therefore he any of his opinions are going to validate his lifestyle choices, right?
Uh,
So just like you could have another person look at who's like I don't know, got married and maybe had a more traditional life, and look at the same data and make a different case, huh?
no. Go
Oh,
ahead.
sorry. So yeah, I mean, I've listened to Bill Maher talk, and like, yeah, I mean, again, I think it's a natural human thing. Like we make choices, and then in retrospect, we try to bend reality to our choices. So like, anything he says is going to support his lifestyle because he's a bachelor and he likes being a bachelor. And I've
Mm-hmm.
seen him talk about it. It's not a net positive or a net negative. It's like, that's like the lifestyle he chose. Which I do agree, right? Like you choose the path you want to choose, and then you deal with the consequences of that choice. There's going to be pros and there's going to be cons. Like don't go down a path and then cry about the negatives of it. You chose that path,
Right.
and that you could find out in both cases, right? You want to go live single life? Well, now you're free to go to as many Taylor Swift concerts as you want,
Or you
which
could
is like
travel all around the world. Yeah.
an odd thing to boast about
Yeah,
as
which is funny.
an adult person. Um,
Yeah, she's 40. It's funny though.
Correct. So it is. So like that's great, right? So
But I
like
like her though. I'm not trying to slander her.
no,
Actually,
but
I
I'm
like her.
saying like
Yeah.
to me still. I mean, if someone made that boast, it'd be like I'm single and I got to go to Disney World 40 times. Like I don't know, man. That's your choice. If you're free to do it, there's probably better things you could be doing with your time, but that's you. Right.
Yeah.
But it's pros and cons, right? So like that's awesome for her. Now when she's 60, like I said, and maybe she's alone, she might regret some of those decisions. Um, so that's the path you went. Just like someone who, let's say, got married young, had kids, they kind of sacrificed somewhat of their freedom by their choice. And like, if later on they're like, regret, it's like, no, that's the path you chose. You're going to get benefit because you have obviously good that came out of that. But some of the negative is that you had to grow up quick, probably, and you didn't get to do all of those things, right? So it's like the grass is always greener. Like if you choose a path, there's pros and cons to it. Don't like later on, be woe is me. Like, no, you chose that path, you got benefit and you got negative. Like that's a life, right? Like you choose paths. There's pros and there's cons to every path. So I think like that's to me, like I kind of would start there. It's like, all right, I think there's pros and cons to both. I
Uh-huh.
think if we went back to our previous conversation like a couple weeks ago, one thing to always remember is like people's opinions of like their choices change as time goes on. So that's what the one thing I always say is like he's someone who I think he chose the right path for himself, and like he's in his 70s and he doesn't regret his choice. Like right, he made a good choice.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I think it is a little dangerous giving. I'm not trying to think how to put this. Yeah, so again, it's like
I
it's interesting to see how people change in time, and you can make choices that you'll regret later in life. But and yeah, I mean you gotta deal with it.
Yeah. But
Go ahead, kick back to you.
I'm gonna challenge you with a couple questions
Yeah,
then.
yeah, go ahead. And there's a couple other things because this is a
Off
good topic actually.
yeah, off the back of what you said. What what would be the con of doing what you think feels right and what you want to do? Why is there a con there? What's the consequence?
I mean, because I mean, let's put it this way. Because I have talked to people. Let's say you live a bachelor. I know. I think for men and women, this is a kind of a different topic. Hold on a second.
Yeah,
Right,
no
because
worries.
we're talking about family and children. Like a man could go and like Bill Maher could all of a sudden tomorrow meet a 25-year-old because let's be honest, that's who he's trying to talk to.
Yeah, the money helps that he has,
And
definitely.
then say, you know what, like for whatever this, I never thought I wanted to do this, but like, or this person, you know what I mean? Like he changes his mind, right? And
Uh-huh.
he gets married, has kids. He can do that, biologically speaking, and he
Yeah.
can afford to
Mm.
like course correct. Now, a woman who's 70 who did whatever and made those choices, right? The con of that path would be in her 60s or 70s if she says, I regret that I didn't do this, she can't course correct. That's what I'm saying. So if you know what I mean, so like that's you chose a path, there will be benefits. Let's say she explored the world, she traveled, did all of these things, had an amazing career, and then later in life she's like, I wish I had I missed out on this thing.
Right.
It's going to be hard. Like she can maybe adopt a child, but like, you know what I mean? Like she won't be able to go through that natural biological evolution. Like she won't be able to experience that.
Yeah, so
So
yeah.
again, that's a case where it's like, no, you chose a path. There was the positive, right? You got to explore, you get to do all these things. Your friends who went down a different path are probably like, that's amazing. You've seen the world. Da, da,
And
da, da,
there's
da,
a
da.
hint of jealousy in it too. That's
Maybe,
what's
but
resentful from my
But
end.
dude, the grass is always going to be
Yeah.
greener. Like, dude, do you not think that she's 70 and she looks at her friend and her friend has like kids and grandkids and on Christmas
It
she's a
could be,
full
you're right,
house?
potentially,
Dude,
potentially.
of
Yeah.
course it is. I mean, like, dude, like, come on. Everything cuts both ways. Like, it's not going to be like the family is going to always be jealous of the single person. Like, it's going to cut both ways. Like, come on. It's going to cut both ways. People feel lonely,
I
dude.
don't agree with you, but I could see when you get to the ages
There's
you're
literally
describing.
like the expression, the grass is always greener for a reason, right? People always envy what they do not have.
Right.
And that
So,
is always going to go both ways. It may not be every day, all the time, but there's definitely going to be occasions where you're going to be like, oh, take Valentine's Day, right? You're single, you love being single, you're doing everything you want to do, whatever, right? You're living your life.
yeah.
And then there might be one day of the year where you're like, you know what, like I wish I would have someone, or you get lonely, right? The grass will always be greener. You'll look at your friend who, let's say, hasn't been in this committed relationship, and like to say you never will be jealous or never have a hint of envy or desire for that, like come on, like the grass is always going to be greener. And just like that person is going to get in fight with his wife or significant other, and will look at his single friend who's out doing whatever
Who's
and be
probably on
like,
on a holiday vacation somewhere. Yeah.
correct. But I mean,
Yeah.
like,
Yeah.
if you've talked to enough
I get.
people, it's like fair to say, like, single people don't have it amazing. Married people don't have it amazing. There's no perfect scenario. And depending on the day, you're going to like have a different opinion on like where you are in life. I mean, that's my opinion. Also, remember, the people we're listening to are multimillionaires. So,
Yeah.
like, that's why I always take people's advice. It's like, well, your advice is different because it's also catered to you, your lifestyle, and so forth. Bill Maher is very wealthy. Like,
Yeah,
you know what I
but
mean?
they
He
still
has
make relatable points though. That's not totally true.
that's fair. But I mean, again, I think it is different. Like if you're a 50-year-old man or a 60-year-old man who is not wealthy, your single life is going to be less entertaining than Bill Maher, who's famous and wealthy.
Yeah, that I agree with.
And I mean, that's the majority of people, right? Like
Hmm.
that's the 90%, not the, you know what I mean? That's the majority. The
Yeah.
majority are not Bill Maher. So that's why it's always like it has to season like a little bit of the advice they give. At least I'm getting
Yeah,
off my
so
soapbox.
so you're saying it's like it's a good message, but the messenger needs to be analyzed more.
I mean, it's neither a good message or a bad message, right? Like the whole like different people are like, all right, the single thing, more people being single. There's a lot of people who are seeing that as a negative, and also, let's be honest, depression is ever higher than it's ever been as far as people measure it, right?
Hmm.
Like how many? There's a lot of men who are very depressed because they don't feel like you know again, they're single by choice, and then there's people who are like single because they don't feel like they can find someone. So like that's what I'm saying. Like the interpretation of that data is really based off of like that's why I asked you like what was his interpretation of that, because I've listened to many people talk about that,
Yeah.
and the interpretation is vastly different based off of how
Yeah.
they interpret that data. Like birth rate is decreased,
Hmm.
right? A lot of people look at that as a net negative, and also coupling between men and women is decreasing, and
Yeah.
a lot of people look at that as a net negative.
But what's
And
the reasoning behind it? What's the logic behind that?
I mean,
Was it?
dude, people like biologically speaking, I think we're meant to be like with
There we go.
people.
All right, I see it. Okay.
I mean, dude, it's like to say that like this little blip in the map of the Earth, like on this timeline, is like we've discovered that it's better for people to be by themselves all the time. Like that's not. I mean, I think it's counter to like how human beings have ever like been and seen each other. Now, I think if you want to comment on like marriage, like that's a whole different conversation. But like do you like as a single person feel like when you're 50 you want to be like living by yourself and not in a relationship with anyone? Like, do you
That's
think your
that's a
life will be like is that something you aspire to?
yeah, that's a good question.
Sorry,
I
I'm not trying to put you on. I'm not
nah,
like judging or putting
no,
you
no, no,
on the
no, no.
block. It's
I
like
see,
I
but
don't think for myself. Like,
I can answer that in two ways. Could you go first, and I'll answer your question? Yeah.
yeah, I mean, I don't think like it can go, but I can see it in for like again. I think for okay, I'm gonna rather than rambling. My brother said this once, and like I don't quote my brother very frequently, but he said something to like, and he's younger than me. He was like, "There's a certain age in which it's not good for a man to be by himself." And I was like, I've thought about that periodically over the years, and there is some truth to that. I think, like,
Did he explain that?
oh, I mean, it was in the sense of like like a relationship. Like men are usually at their best when they are like, this is my opinion now, like with
Right.
someone and also providing for other people, right? If we lived in New York, I mean, there's a lot of 50-year-olds that are wealthy and like they behave mentally as if they are 25 or 30 years old. You're right. I think for men, we grow up, we mature, we become wiser, we can become our best selves usually.
You've told this to me before. I
Yeah,
agree.
when you kind of have responsibilities. And if you're Peter Pan, we get older physically, but mentally we never age. Now there are exceptions to the rules. Like
Hmm.
there's that's a generalization. But again, I think for most people that stands to be true. But then you could be an outlier.
Hmm. Yeah. All right. So two things. That's true. That raised another point in my head. Um, I've when I was talking to a couple people, both males, and they kind of said the same thing, and they'll know who they are. Um, but
I don't
it's
know
fine.
them.
It's fine. You don't.
Would I know them?
No, you
Okay.
don't. You may maybe, but I think one yes. Um, they said having. They both said like your brother
Yeah.
alluded to, or he didn't allude to. Actually, said
Yeah.
expressly aloud. He he said, or both of them said, having starting a family and having children does make you a better human being, kind of what you were just saying, like
Mm-hmm.
you're like having that responsibility and being like the patriarch and stuff like that, that does elevate you. You level up as a human being. I don't know if I agree with that though.
Okay.
What would you, how would you argue that, if that's true? Would
Um,
you say that's true? You would agree with that?
I would say that the people I've seen who've had, I always believe that. I believe it, period. But now to use my own observations,
Hmm.
the people I've seen who've gotten married and had kids, but let's just not say, let's say had kids, right? Started a family. Let's just use
Hmm.
that.
Yeah.
Um, I have noticed changes in them, and the changes have been positive. I've noticed, and one person I can think of right now, I'm going to use the word Asgard because that should ring your bell as to who I'm
I
talking
know.
about.
Yeah, I know who it
Um,
is.
but
Big up.
like,
Yeah.
right, like he changed significantly. Like, time became more precious. Um, he became hungrier to succeed, and his success was not about his own glory, but the fact of like, I'm going to make the best life I possibly
The
can
being
for
the protector and the provider,
for the people
correct?
in my
Yeah.
life,
Yes, yes, yes.
and the and that's all seasoned by the fact that the stakes are much higher.
Yeah, and
So
so it's
yeah,
a type of motivation
hundred
to,
percent,
yeah, yeah.
100%. And also, it's like, dude, when you are single, all you think about, generally, is yourself. Like, because that's all
It's
you really
true.
need.
I'll tell you, I
You only
agree.
need is it's like, what do I want to do this weekend? And I have another point I'll make. But like, what do I want to do this weekend? Okay, it's about me, right? What do I want to eat? Where do I want to go? Do I want to do this? Do I want to do it? And the interesting thing is, like, unless you're really, really self motivated, you also like you do less probably because like when you have other people it forces you to do more. Like, all right, time is, I gotta get moving, I gotta do things. It's funny, I was talking to I was like I was at church actually, and there was a guy there, my dad was talking to him, and he was like, what do you got going
Amen.
on this weekend? And I was like, I don't know, man, I don't really think that far ahead. And he was like, you don't have kids, do you? I was like, no, I don't have any kids. He's like, yeah. He's like, that's the thing. He's like I have to, he's like, I plan out weeks in advance
Yeah,
what
yeah.
I want to do.
Oh
Like,
yeah.
I talked to my son. He's like, my son's the same way. He doesn't have any kids. He's not married. He's like, what do you got going on this week? He's like, I don't know. He's like, dude, come on, man. Like, you got to plan this stuff. But it's interesting because he's filling up his life. It kind of forces him to also do more, be more places, be more intentional, right? Because time, you look at it differently. When you have endless amounts of time and it's just you actually don't do as much. At least I don't do as much. Like, I know that for a fact. I think you do a lot. Like, not everyone's the same. Some people are more self
Yeah, no, I
motivated.
was gonna say I do a lot, but
Yeah,
it might not be the most productive thing. I'll give you that.
yeah. So I mean, that's. I mean, but
It's
again,
still fun though. I'm having fun.
But bro, I think it's like literally your choice. Like okay, I don't want to use Elon Musk, but like that guy's had many like wives, let's say, and many kids, but he's also so driven and so focused on a thing. Like, I don't think he's a great, like, obviously he's not married. I don't think he's probably a great husband. He might not be the most like in his kids' lives, right? Because you're busy, you're driven, you're focused, you're trying to build things.
Yeah.
And in his case, like, it would probably be better if he's not attached, right? So like, again, I'm not trying to make over, like, we don't want to overgeneralize, because like some people are Bruce Wayne. Like, they're on a mission. Like, they can't have these things in their life,
Uh-huh.
or having it's actually going to do harm to someone. Like, you're focused on X, and then you have this wife and kids, and what, you neglect them. That's not good.
Yeah.
But if we're speaking like in generalizations, like, not the people who are trying to get us to Mars, but like the 99% of people, yeah, I would say it's probably a net positive to have someone in your life that you love and that loves you and that is like committed, right? Where next month it's not like who will be the next person filling this role, and potentially the byproduct of that, which is not guaranteed, would be like a family.
Right.
And I'm
So
not passing that judgment on anyone, but I do think it's like a net positive overall.
all right. So you do think it transforms you, and it it makes you, like, it upgrades you as a person. You do believe that. But what I my
For some,
for
yes.
some, but right, that's you. So you kind of alluded to, you just took away what I was
Yeah,
going to
dude,
say.
there's
Yeah,
bad husbands that are
there's
like
bad
bad dads.
marriages. Yeah, that's what I was going to say. Yeah,
But I
there's
don't think that they're like, I think so. Again, we had this conversation. It was you, me, and Joe, I think. I
Mhm.
also do think the media and a lot of the TV shows and the things we watched have also like HBO. If you watch like HBO shows, you would think that like everyone is in horrible families, and like dads either neglect or abusive. Moms or don't like like they're busy doing other
they're
things.
distant from, yeah.
But like, dude, if that was like, that's not obviously the truth. Like, I think that's literally, again, we got to remember, it's like, who wrote that, and we're seeing their perspective on reality, not necessarily reality, right? It's not
Yeah.
like, you know what I mean? So like, that's the kind of thing. It's like, is this real, or is this just the fact that like, these are the writers in LA and New York that have written this material? Because like, that's just not true, man. Like, you go talk to 100 people, like, I don't think the majority of them came from like horrible families. I would think a lot of them, the best people in their lives are like their parents or a sibling or an aunt or an uncle, and that's kind of like how it's been like that for long periods of time. Go ahead, sorry.
Yeah, yeah. No, that's a fair point. But what I would say, this might be getting even deeper into a psychological thing. But let's see where we go.
Okay, yeah, yeah.
I would say the people that enjoy that type of content, which a lot of America do. They love the broken family dramatic series.
Yeah,
there's literally tens of thousands of
I
them.
mean, there's more of
Yeah,
that than the happy family.
correct, exactly, because of the drama and the scan and the salacious and all
Correct.
that.
Yeah.
And however, the reason why it is popular is because in their own lives, that is going on underneath. They they just, no one will just address it.
Oh, I
You
think the
see what I'm saying?
opposite.
You think it's the opposite?
Oh
Why?
yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I think it's like, dude, there's a reason why drama is so in. Like, if people's lives were as dramatic as the shows they watch, they wouldn't seek those shows out. It's like people watch like the Housewives shows on Bravo, not because it's
Because this
similar
is
to
like a
their
cartoon.
life.
It's like a
It's
cartoon thing.
like
Yeah.
something interesting. Like, because again, it's like we don't watch the Seventh Heaven. You know what I mean? Like, because it's not interesting. It's not dramatic, right? Like,
Yeah.
just like we watch combat sports. We don't watch like professional huggers. Like, it's not interesting. It's not dramatic. It's not enticing or
Yeah.
tantalizing, right?
Yeah.
So no, I think that what we like, I don't think that's the norm. I think that's why it sells so well, because it's so like dramatic, so different, so elevated from what most people encounter.
Okay.
That's my opinion. I mean, and
Yeah.
again,
I don't
if
know.
you asked a
I
hundred
think
people, like if you, I mean, again, and there's pockets, right?
there's an element of truth, which is,
Yeah.
in my opinion, why people are drawn to that,
But also,
because
again, it's like
they feel it.
watch the shows. Like the majority of shows you watch on TV take place in New York City or Los Angeles.
Yeah.
It's kind of an interesting thing if you think about it. Like the vast majority of TV that's like multi-episode, a lot of it takes place within certain communities. Like, if
Mhm.
you don't think about it, but like that, I think that is true, right? And it's like, again, so is that a commentary on America, or is it more or less a commentary on specific pockets within America? I would imagine some of these shows, like I'm trying to think of that one show, it's with like high schoolers, Euphoria.
Euphoria. Yeah, that's a wild show.
Right, but that's like,
I've
is
never
that
seen it though.
if you watch that, you're like, is that America? No, it all takes place in like L.A. It's kids that grow up in L.A. Like, LA is
Uh-huh.
a microcosm of America. Like, it's not America. Like, the vast majority of Americans, that's not their lifestyle. It's a
But
small little pocket.
that is true. But there's
So
a
if you're in LA and you watch that, you might
but
be like,
why is
yeah,
the
that's
show
real.
popular? Why do people want to move to New York and LA around the world?
Correct. I mean,
Because they want that. That's what I'm saying.
correct. But that's not necessarily, I mean, dude, it's like, that's not necessarily a net positive. Like,
Yeah.
think about that, dude. How many kids go to Hollywood because that's what they want, and end up a few years later tortured souls? Like, there is, like, now it's more of an existential question. Like, there's many things human beings desire and go for that are not in their best interests. I mean, come on, dude. Like, how
Yeah.
many people will do a lot of things to be on TV that they will look back on later in their life, and they will not be like a fond memory,
Okay,
right?
that's true.
Like, how
Well,
many people, like,
I
what is
think
that?
we're both right here,
Yeah,
and
I
I'll
mean,
tell
yeah,
you why. And
I
I'll
don't
tell
think
you
it's
why.
like a right
Yeah.
or wrong. I think it's
Yeah.
like, to overgeneralize in one direction or the other misunderstands that
Yeah,
so
I
many
agree.
individuals exist.
I agree, because what my retort would be, I hear what you're saying, and I do agree with a large portion of it. However, I'll add this caveat: if you don't take the risk and the gamble to go to New York and try to make it, quote unquote, or LA, what if you could have made it and you're going to regret that the rest of your life? And now what effect does that have on you? You see what I'm saying?
Yeah,
If
but again, like,
you
that's like,
don't risk it. Yeah.
well, again, we're talking about, like, what are we talking about? Risk what to do to accomplish what? Like, if you're talking about someone who wants to go be an actor, that's like, again, we're talking about the 1% of people or the 2% of people, right? These are like, that's why you're going to those places to accomplish whatever it is you're trying to accomplish, right? So, like, again, like, to go circle back, like a Bill Maher or a Nikki Glazer, like, they also have a goal for what they wanted to accomplish in their life. And in order to accomplish that, those other things of which we discussed, like relationships or family,
Mm-hmm.
may not have been advantageous for them. But that's like, again, they're like blips in the map. Like, you know what I mean? Like, they're unique, that they're trying to accomplish this very specific goal or have a very specific lifestyle. And these things may have affected them negatively from their perspective.
Yeah.
But again, that's like, they're like, you know what I mean? That's very unique. Like, they're not the majority of people. The majority of people are not trying to be like a famous comedian for both. I mean, for either of them.
It's true, but I think I think my sticking point with this is it's much less of a rare occurrence than you're making it out to be. And number two, it's the stigma attached to wanting that lifestyle is unfair. Where the conservative, I'm gonna do the clock punching 9 to 5 humanoid family, white picket fed children, is this such a conservative approach. I'd rather take the risk and to risk it all, to go for it, than to just you see what I'm trying to say?
Yeah, but again, like that's that you're. So it's interesting. I mean, I don't want to like psychoanalyze, but it also feels like you feel judged when maybe you're not being judged. Like, who's judging you for this lifestyle? And also, I'd say is like, what are you
There's
trying to accomplish?
Yeah, no. Most the people that are close to me won't judge me,
But
but
who? But then who's judging you? Because really, everything else is a
people's
projection.
opinion, yeah, people's opinion probably who shouldn't matter. But remember when we were talking about the I value people's opinion who I shouldn't have, and I was thinking about that all the time. That's that's what I'm starting to like eradicate from my life. So maybe I end up coming to your side at some point. Who
Yeah,
knows?
I mean, I think it's you got to do it. I think we should all avoid telling other people what to do.
All right.
Like in general, right? Like you make the best. Again, that's why I go back. Like make the best choice you think is right for you. Pursue your goal, but don't complain later on if there's a sacrifice for that. Like that's why I think like it's full to me. It's like Bill Maher. Like shut up, dude. Like don't tell other people how to live because you are not the majority. You are the minority. Anytime someone's like in L.A. or in New York and they're trying to tell every oh we you know I did it. It's like shut up. Like
Yeah, no, I
be
agree with
very
that.
happy
Yeah.
you've accomplished what you've accomplished, but understand that you're also not the majority of people.
Yeah. No, you're right. I'm not trying to be an
Right?
apologist for this type
No,
of
I know, I
lifestyle,
know, I know.
but I think for me, I this is what I genuinely want. Am I open to a change? It would take a lot, but I'm open to the change.
Well, then that's a different. Like, I
But
mean,
I
yeah, if that's what
genuinely
you
enjoy this
want,
lifestyle. Yeah.
then I think there's if you yeah, and there's no. I don't. Yeah, I would say you shouldn't feel bad if that's what you generally. If you're living the life, if you've shaped your life the way you want it to be, um, but I also think it's like get ready because how you're choosing to live is counter to like thousands of years of human life. So
Right.
if people
That's the
say that's
point. Yeah.
odd, it's like, well, yeah, they're right. It is odd in the grand scheme of things,
Mhm.
but that's fine. You
But
know.
that part's I guess I still take that personally. I don't like that. But maybe that's something that I need to work on for myself. You know what I'm saying?
And
Yeah, like
also, I think for all of us, we need to like also, and I'm the same way. I hate being judged, but like sometimes I think we also need to listen try to like listen to what they're saying because sometimes they are like I don't know. Sometimes there might be value. Maybe they're throwing up red flags or warnings that we don't have to abide by. It's like a if on a stop sign, it's like a yellow light. Like doesn't mean stop, but it might mean like slow down and pay attention. Because I do think like dude, you lived in New York, right? I
mhm.
try to pursue acting. I met a lot of people who will never become successful as an actor, but they're still out there, they're trying. And there are like, again, there are, it's one. So I think I want to add a little distinction to what we're talking about.
Mhm.
Like, because I think we've kind of mixed up two things. If
Yeah.
you're trying to pursue something and you see, in this case, like a more traditional life hindering that, because you're trying to pursue this goal, whatever it will be. Like that's one thing. If you're saying I want to live, I just like being a bachelor and like I just whatever, I could be working a 9 to 5 job. I just that's the way I like to organize my life. That's a different thing, right? Because one is saying I'm going to forego this activity in order to try to pursue this dream of mine. The other is saying I don't want that. Like I just don't want it. Like period, right? I'm happier being a single person, right? So those are two actually different arguments,
Yeah.
right? So like that's one thing I would say. So it sounds like listening to you're like, no, I just kind of like being my own boss, being my own master, not really having to like negotiate with another person and just kind of like live my life. Like if I feel like I want to do something, go do it. If I want to do this, go do it. And like have my own space, have my own place, have my own, like, that's, I don't think
Yeah, yeah.
anyone can judge you for that. That's like your choice.
Mm-hmm.
Sherlock Holmes lived by himself. No one hates on Sherlock Holmes,
Love Sherlock Holmes.
right? On the other side of things,
Yeah.
where you have someone who's pursuing something and then they're foregoing this other aspect of their life, that's different to me. Like, again, I was like trying to be an actor. I interacted with a lot of people who might have been getting older and they're still trying to pursue this dream. I'm not going to say you shouldn't, but I would imagine people in their life are saying, hey, like, this dream might be getting a little farther away. Maybe this is not a dream you'll be able to hit. And like, these are other things in your life that you could pursue, and we don't want you to miss out on them. So, like,
Yeah, yeah.
again, I could see someone saying that, and you could take that in like, yo, get away from me. Or you could just listen to it, file it away as a warning, and then, go about your life. So, like, again, I think those are like
Yeah,
two distinctions.
they are two separate things. But what if you're I can only speak for myself, but I think it will apply to other people as well. What if you're the person that is not interested in that lifestyle? And I mean the
Yeah.
family, children. You're not interested in that to pursue the goal, and then when you achieve your goals and you're successful, you still don't want that lifestyle. I
Then I
think I
think,
would fall into that
yeah, I
bucket.
think then that
Yeah,
is like, that's fine. Like, I don't think there's
yeah,
anything
but then
wrong with that.
I would.
But again, I
People
don't.
would still like side eye you for that. Is what I'm trying to say.
But
They
again, I
would.
guess
They
that's
would.
that's
They
like
would. It's the truth.
that's your life, dog. Like,
Yeah.
you know what I mean? Like, I think that's one of those things. Like, people are always going to judge you. Like,
Yeah.
that's the world we live in. And like, if you're happy with your life, then their judgment shouldn't bother you. And if it does bother you,
That's
that's a
true.
question
Yeah.
you should ask yourself.
Yeah.
Like, I don't think Bill Maher really cares if someone says, Bill, why don't you, I don't have kids?
Yeah.
He don't think about it. He probably goes about the rest of his day. If that bothers you, and this is like
There
not even
might
this
be
is
something deeper. Yeah. I see.
correct, and
Yeah.
it's like not even this. It's like, that's like kind of in general, right? Like, if you're doing something and someone that you don't even know or care about gives you some like criticism and it just eats at you, I think, I'm not a therapist, but I would imagine a therapist would be like, okay, that's something we need to, on the next hour, we're going to visit that.
Yeah.
Because that means it's like, that's something,
That's
that's
a
a
good
pressure
point. That's a
point,
good
right?
point.
It's like,
Yeah.
well, maybe I'm not so happy about this lifestyle choice because, when someone put the spotlight on me, I got really pissed.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I know someone personally, like a friend of mine, she's female. She does not want to have kids. There's really no desire, maybe to have a partner, but like not to really get married. And like, she's always been that way. There's a lot of people. There are people like that. Like, they're not an anomaly, right? There's people like that, and that's fine, right? The wrong thing would be to be pressured to do something you don't want to do, and now you have other people in your life that you can affect. And there's probably people who shouldn't have gotten married or shouldn't have had kids, and then maybe were talked into it, or like you said, did it because they were supposed, like, that's what you're supposed to do, and then they were a bad husband or they were a bad mom, and now they've affected another generation. Like, that's not good either,
Yeah.
right? that's
Yeah.
that's
Absolutely right. Yeah.
that's bad. And there's people who have that, right, where it's like, my dad never hugged me or never said he loved me or anything like that. And it's like, well, maybe your dad was someone he shouldn't have, like, he didn't want to have kids, or he shouldn't have had kids, because now that's affected another generation. And if that person doesn't catch it, they might affect another generation. So yeah, I mean, there's definitely people that shouldn't have children. There's definitely people who are better being by themselves,
Mm-hmm.
or just are happier, more comfortable, or whatever. I mean, dude, it's your life. You should be allowed to. I don't think there's anything inherently wrong with that. I just think it'd be wrong if you try to like broadcast it like, this is the right way to live
Oh
versus
yeah.
this.
You're like gloating and stuff.
Well, no, I just think it's like, our society would collapse if everyone said,
Yeah. It
yeah, everyone
wouldn't
should be singing.
exist. It wouldn't
No,
exist.
it's like, obviously that's not the case.
Yeah.
But
Uh,
yeah, I don't know, man.
okay. So one more thing
this
on this.
is a good topic. I mean,
Yeah.
I don't know if you're aware of it, but we've talked about this before.
Yeah, we have. And there's one more thing before we move on to something that's more amusing and lighter. It's what do you think about another thing that I've been seeing across the platforms that I'm swimming through, the miasma? Chris, the swamps of the internet, just so no one
Just
else
in the
has to,
backwaters,
just so
man.
no
Just
one
like
has, yeah. That there's, and I'm not trying to get too political because we're going to keep it at a surface level. We're not going to pick sides or anything. Uh, what do you think about how a lot of the economic and government policies are geared more towards families than single people? And I'll give you an example. For instance, during COVID, no one cared about the single person, male or female, or
yeah,
whatever, however you identify yourself. No one cared about the single person that moved to a new place. Let's say you were single female, then moved to New York for a new job. You signed a lease for this like luxury apartment building in Williamsburg. Your company dissolves and goes under, and now you have no job, and you're stuck with a 2-year lease in a new apartment. No one talked about that. It was always family, 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 children, 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 family, you see what I'm saying?
yeah,
It
yeah.
was That's all the politicians, every political platform, and every economic decision was geared toward families.
So,
That's what I
yeah,
think is another unfair thing.
yeah. I mean, I don't necessarily know if I
Yeah,
disagree. I watched the vice presidential debate, and they talk about family a lot,
yeah,
both sides.
all the time.
And again, I think that also shows you that the majority of people are family oriented, because otherwise it wouldn't be like such a sticking point that they talk about. But no, I get it. I mean, like, dude, I had to cover. I remember my last job, I had to like essentially take on a role that I didn't want to take out. Like, it took me off track of what I'm trying to do because a woman had kids and went on maternity leave. So like, I have thought about it maybe as like from a selfish perspective of like it is kind of I'm not gonna say unfair, but like I'm going to put it in quotes, unfair in quotes. Like, it is interesting that like if you have kids, lots of kids, like you're going to be able to take like between you and your husband maybe like 6 months off, like, you know what I mean, and get paid because of a life choice that you've made for you and your family. And I mean, I get you could definitely make an argument where it's like, that's kind of unfair. Like, so that means if you choose not to live that life, or let's say you're a woman who chooses not to have kids, you don't ever get the benefit from like maternity leave or what is it, maternity or paternity
Paternity.
leave.
Yeah.
Like both the father and the mother will get like some of these jobs like 4 months off.
Yeah.
So that's
And
4 and 4. You know what I mean? That's like, so between the 2 months, 8 months of paid vacation. Now it's not vacation, but kind of. I mean, they're not working; they're getting paid. So it is like if you don't take advantage of that, that's like a benefit you don't get. Which, yeah, I mean, I could see how someone could be kind of see that as
yeah, and
unfair.
I have a good story about that. I'm not
But
trying to
also remember, it's
go.
like the majority of a population, because like young people, older people, like are like if they were to try to give like then it means you're giving like everyone tons of money, because like it almost becomes like unsustainable, right? Because you think from a government standpoint, they need like, again, this is like my view on politics, right? Like, a government lives because people procreate, and there's people that will fight their wars and pay taxes. So in a sense, if you look at it from that jaded perspective, it's in the government's best interest to give help and money to families, because essentially their offspring will pay for the government, fight its wars,
Yeah,
and be its
be
labor
be
force.
taxpayers too.
Right.
Yeah,
So it's like, is it like, oh, kindness that they're offering? Not really. It's kind of like a self fulfilling benefit. Like, all right, more people have kids. That means we'll have more workers, more tax dollars, so forth and so on. If everyone was single, I mean, the country would not exist anymore, right? Because within enough generations, it's just there's no one there.
yeah,
So, I mean, again, it's like, is it a benefit out of the kindness of their hearts? Maybe, but also it is like it's like it's a self-sustaining.
it's a model. It's like a financial model. You're
It's
saying for
like,
the
yeah,
government.
it's kind of saying like, oh, we're gonna do this nice thing, but really it's for us. Like,
Yeah,
that's what I'm kind of saying. It's not really a kindness.
Yeah, I know. This might be I do have the let me tell that story. So I do have a good friend of mine who I met just after college while I was in law school. Female. She's cool. I'm not this is not a knock against her at all. She's one of my favorite people I've ever met. And we're still friends. She took a job and she had 5 kids after that job, still working at the same job, but the kids were back to back to back to back to back to back to back, like right one after the other, back boom 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 boom.
Yeah,
And so if you think about the totality of the time she had off, so at the end of the pregnancy you're getting
correct.
paid and you leave afterwards. So she's worked for this company, but about, I would say, I mean, my math could be totally wrong, but I'm thinking at least 2 full years the company paid her, maybe a little more actually,
Yeah, I mean, at minimum,
for
let's say
never working
she
for
got 20 months off over the course of
yeah, like
5 years, maybe
close to
more.
probably around 2 years,
Yeah, I
and
mean,
to never work and being paid a pretty good salary.
yeah,
That's
I mean,
crazy.
and that's like, I mean, this leads into like a debate of regarding like salaries for men and women, and women who choose to like, have kids versus women who don't, like that. Like, it's an interesting topic. That's why it's kind of a complicated subject, because another way to look at it is that that person will in the long run make less money than, let's say, the female equivalent who worked the same period of
Yeah, this
time
true
and didn't
would
have
be
kids,
less. Yeah,
because she can switch jobs, she can take, work a little bit harder, get like a promotion. And like, when you look at their salaries over 5 years, that probably one has made more money than the other, though the one has worked less. um and again, like, it's same for men, right? The man who's like, let's say, the husband has a bunch of kids, like, I would imagine, maybe it's a little bit different for men, but I would imagine the equivalent male who's just been like balls to the wall, career, and doesn't have those things, is probably moving, like climbing the ladder fast by comparison, right? So like, maybe that's part of the equation, that they like, oh well, like a single person doesn't need it because in the long run. But no, I get it. I mean, I do think it's kind of like a funny thing that, families do get, to some degree, like preferential treatment in a lot of things.
that's
um
kind of the overall point I'm trying to
yeah,
push.
I don't think it's wrong. I don't think it's what you're saying is inaccurate. Like, I think it's true. I mean, there's no benefits if you're uh, a single person. Not really, right? Like, there's no tax benefits.
It's there's no governmental, or there's no tax write-offs, there's
No,
no you can't claim dependents and stuff like that.
it's
Yeah,
actually more beneficial to be married, right?
yeah,
Because like,
yeah.
there's more just for pure tax
The
purposes.
only benefits of single is more social. It's not financial. It's actually, like you said, it's actually, I didn't mean to cut you off, sorry.
No,
It's
no, go ahead. That's fine.
financial. It's better financially to have kids, and even if you're struggling a little bit, you still get help. You see what I'm saying? If
I
you
mean,
have
I
them
don't
at
think
the
it. I think from a government standpoint, I don't think it's ever. I don't think it's fine. Like, I don't think, like, again,
yeah, it's not,
say
yeah, I
like
take that.
the 20 something, like, if you have a 24, I'm just gonna throw out a number, 24-year-old male, woman, like the family, right, with two adults that are 25 years old, right, and have kids, 3 kids, and then you have the equivalent female 25-year-old or male 25-year who's single. Like, from a work, I think financially the one is gonna have a lot more money than the other. Like, the single person should have more money than the family. The government, even with the government, right, like, the government was helping you, but you're spending more money, right? Like, you have 3 kids, they cost a lot of money, right?
Yeah.
They don't bring in any money, whereas
Hmm.
the other person over here, that money's just theirs.
Hmm.
So
You're right.
yeah,
You're right.
but I think that's why the government gives money. It's like, all right, again, this is in our long-term benefit to help you, like, give you some like financial, I don't even know, to kind of give you a little bit of help in
The
quotes.
support. I would say
But
support.
again, in
Yeah.
my perspective, it's like, because this is our net benefit,
Yeah.
government wise. Like, I
I
don't.
do agree with that. Yeah.
If the government was like, it is in our net benefit to give singles money, they would. But like, think about the worst case
They would
for
just go to
for
party.
from a
I'll tell you.
government standpoint is
Yeah.
like, a country of very wealthy single people, because their money is like it's not gonna like come back, right? Whereas like you take another a families who have a bunch of kids, like in the long term, that will reap more fine because each of those persons becomes a taxpayer. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like,
Right. Yeah.
or a laborer or a soldier or something along those lines.
Yeah, no,
So
that's an excellent point. It's true. So yeah,
anyway,
but I'm saying that I'm not
but you
knocking.
do you,
Listen,
Bobby
yeah,
A.
you do.
You do
Hey, I'm
you.
not saying this to say I'm I'm against people having large families. So I'm not. If you enjoy having children and you love like just the physical biological part of being pregnant and giving birth and creating
I
life,
don't.
I there's nothing. I'm not against that part. What you alluded to, what I have an issue with is that, like you said the right words. To me, families sometimes get preferential treatment, whereas people that choose to live their lives as a single person get ignored
Yeah.
entirely.
I
Yeah.
don't disagree. We should do this as another conversation where you bring your brother on, because it is kind of an interesting where we have identical twins who probably see this same question from two different perspectives, but you're genetically the same person. So why is it
We
that
have
one?
vastly
Yeah,
different lives. Correct. Yeah.
correct. And actually, like in this topic, you've literally gone in two separate directions.
Yeah.
So it'd be kind of interesting to see like, and you were raised by the same parents, you came from the same home,
Yep.
like why
The
you kind
DNA
of,
is like 99%
yeah,
identical.
why you lean in one direction versus where he might lean in another direction. That might be interesting to talk
That
about.
would be really good. All right, so the last thing I was thinking about. This is a lighter topic. That was good though.
That was, I mean,
Um,
it's kind of important because you're right. Like, there are a lot of numbers going around about how like more people are not just single but are alone,
yeah.
and it's like it is kind of an important topic. But
Mhm.
go ahead. What do you got? What's lighter?
So what do you think? I mean, I'm not trying to pry too much into your private life.
I
I'm
no, I
also a
like that
private.
you are preparing and
Yeah,
you just ask me questions. I
yeah,
like this.
and then yeah, and I'm also a private person. Like, what do you think about the state of like modern dating today? Like with
So
online, with the apps and all that shit, and you know what I mean.
yeah, so I have two. I
Mm-hmm.
have two comments on this. So I spoke with someone we both know,
Mm-hmm.
and so it seems like, and I'm kind of like I'm not connected, so like that's why I'm going to use like someone else's experience,
Yeah.
because I haven't really been dating. He was saying that, so there's a new trend, and it's like essentially it sounds like our generation experienced online dating, like it hit its high point for probably our
Yes.
generation.
Yes.
And it sounds like, from talking to some people, it's starting to it's starting to course correct, because like the younger generation is kind of like, no, I don't want to do this, it's not working, I don't want to do it anymore. So my friend was telling me that there's becoming like, again, like speed dating, but unique types of speed dating. Like, and he did this one thing where you sign up and it's not like a speed dating event. So like it'd be like at a bar or a cafe, and
Mm-hmm.
it's all done in the app, but like the app says, okay, hey, like you're going to meet 5 people tonight. And it would say, okay, the first person you're going to meet is like, her name is Lucy. Lucy's wearing like da 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 da. And you'll go find her in this little space where it's just people, like, it's not a big event. Like some people are just there having a cup of coffee, but you're intermingled amongst them. And like you go and you find Lucy, and like you'll look at the app, it'll say, okay, hey, like you have 15 minutes, and you'll talk and da da da, and then at the end it'll say, okay, time's up, and you're looking for Rachel now. And like, so like people I think are coming back to real life interaction because they're realizing that
Yeah, I
online
get you. I
dating
get you.
doesn't work. um so I think the pendulum is swinging in the other
That's
direction.
good. I'm glad to hear that actually, because
Because, dude, think about it.
I didn't
Online
know that
dating as a
existed.
business. It's in New York. I'll send you the link. My friend, he's done it twice, and I was like, he was explaining to me. I was like, that's really an awesome
That's
idea.
kind of cool.
And
Yeah.
there's no one running the event. They run it all remotely. So it's just like you're there at a bar, and like you'd go see someone you kind of find attractive and you go talk to her. It's like that, but in a more controlled environment, because you're not going up to a complete stranger. you're kind of going up to someone who's expecting to meet someone else, and you talk, and then when you're
Do
done,
they
like you,
know who you are? Do they have your profile?
they know, and I don't know
Yeah.
how much I don't even think they give a lot of information.
All right. I
So
like
like they'll give some
that's fair.
talking points, and maybe I don't even know if they give you your picture. It's kind of like,
Oh, interesting. No, that's better. I think that's better.
so
Yeah.
you just kind of like, and you just know, hey, like, my whatever, you're like, hey, and like they are expecting to meet you, like, oh, hey, like this is Bobby A. Oh,
Mhm.
hey, like nice to meet you. And then when it's done, you go find the next person, and they're waiting for you. But it's like more organic, because I think people, like, think about if you're like 18,
Mhm.
like online dating is hit. It's like that's what you started with.
Yeah, it's a little weird. Yeah.
And I think in the long run, it's like it's online dating has increased at the same degree that increase in singles is. That's what I was saying. When we
No,
go
that's a great
full
point.
circle, is
Yeah.
like when Bill Maher's talking about that. I don't know if it's a net positive, because, like, again, as online dating has risen, more people are single, and the majority of them, again, I'm generalizing, are not single by choice. Like they're unhappily single. Um, so
Nah,
that's,
but
well,
yeah, I
I'm
hear
not saying you, but like,
I
dude,
hear it. Yeah.
find me 10 other people, Rob, who are like, I'm perfect. I'm so happy being single, and I don't want to meet anyone, and like, I'm just gonna like
It's
cruise into
rising though.
bachelorhood.
It's rising.
Find me 10
But
people.
I hear you, but it is
Not 10
rising.
people on the internet, 10
Mm.
people that you know personally, and you live in New York.
Oh, that's much harder.
That's what I'm saying. Like, you'll find them, but it's not the majority. There's a lot of single people, but I don't think a lot of them are like, yeah, no, I'm actually living my dream. The majority of them are like, alternatively, I would like to
But is
find
that
someone.
better than being a serial dater where you have to be in a relationship and it's sometimes toxic ones all the time?
Well, and I think I think that's the online
Yeah.
dating thing. Is like, people are like, this is not working. It's like Netflix. Like, there's too many options. People are not like willing to invest. And then like people become jaded, right? Like,
Hmm.
so anyway, so, and
Yeah, go
again, I
ahead.
was going to make another point. What was the other thing I was going to
Yeah.
say? My question was on the, like, what was it on? Oh, the other thing was, so it's interesting. There's another trend. You'll find it in the, like, since you live in the backwoods of the
Mhm.
internet. Like, have you heard the expression "trad wife"?
The trad wife. Yes, I've seen it, but I've never explored the terminology.
So, like,
What is it?
again, that's just another to show you, kind of like the internet just shows you kind of like the pendulum swinging for psychology. Like,
Eh,
there are, I think it stands for trad, traditional wife. Like,
traditional.
there are
That's what I
women
thought. Yeah.
now, and they're younger women, not like our age, like, that are
They
saying,
want to be
no,
stay-at-home moms.
no, they're
Mhm.
like, I want traditional, I want a traditional life. Like, I want to, like, find someone I really like, care for, and cares for me, and like build a life, build a family. I don't want to be like
All right. So,
dating and
yeah.
having all these relationships. So
Okay.
it is interesting that, like, that's the younger generation in response to what we experienced.
Yeah, yeah, cuz it c- I have a couple of thoughts on that. It's obviously everything always comes full circle. It's all a circle. Um, it's fashion, name it, you name it,
Yeah.
music, fashion, television, all tastes of entertainment, even dating and everything. It all comes back full circle.
Yeah,
It's
I mean, everything
the life
responds
cycle.
to it. Yeah,
Yeah, yeah.
exactly.
But I do like that there's a new there's a, it seems like there's a burgeoning section of um younger women that wanted that's a funny term. I would never make that's such a like a teenage term, the
Oh,
trad.
someone said it to me. I was like,
I've
"What are
seen it
you
and I was
talking
like,
about?" And they were like, "Oh, traditional wife." I was like, "Oh,
yeah,
interesting." So then
I,
I poked around a little
yeah,
bit.
I that's what I thought. I was like that probably means traditional wife, but I thought traditional wife meaning they wanted the like to be like the stay-at-home mother, like the old like the sitcoms from like the 60s and 70s and stuff like that.
I
Yeah.
mean, they want to probably
But I was
experience.
wrong. They just
Yeah.
wanted like a normal relationship and not crazy having five different partners and stuff like that.
Well, it's like, so. Remember, what was that show? The blonde chick, that was Big Bang Theory. Did you ever watch Big Bang Theory?
Yeah, Kaylee Cuoco.
Yeah. So yeah, I figured you probably like her.
Yeah.
I remember she like did a quote at one point. She was like,
Kelly Cuoco.
she's
Sorry. Yeah.
married to. She was married to like some football player. But she was like, yeah, I'm very true. Like, I want to go home and like I like cooking dinner for my husband and like,
Yeah, that's what I'm
you
talking
know,
about. Yeah.
and I think she got some like flack for that. And she's like, why? Like I like to experience it. And this is a career woman. Like she's like doing all kinds of stuff.
Oh, you know how
And
much money she has from Big Bang Theory alone?
oh, a
She's
lot.
set for life. Yeah.
But it was interesting that like she got negative flack for that.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah,
you know
yeah.
what I mean? Showing that like, and again, like I think that shows you there's a trend. Like every generation looks at the previous generation and then makes judgments based on like, they're doing something. And then it's kind of an interesting thing. Like in some ways, the next generation can kind of be arrogant to the past generation. Like you
Mm-hmm.
see that, right? Where it's like, oh, we know better. But in some ways they do, because some ways they look back and they say, well, like, look what you guys are doing. It's not working. You're just too close to it. So we're going to course correct. So I think like in some ways you can look to the next generation and be like, okay, what are they doing? Oh, well, they're dating differently. Well, why? If what we were doing was working, wouldn't they do it? So I think like in some ways it's like kind of you can look at the next generation and there are ways you can kind of you can see that they're changing and adapting. Sometimes negative, but also sometimes positive. So I think this is an area where they're like, this don't work. We need to do something a little differently.
Okay. Yeah. No. I.
Anyway.
No, 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 no. That's interesting. That's starting up again.
But
Yeah,
yeah,
but
we're
I'll
about
probably
to.
come. But for me, I might do something like that. But
I
you
think
want
you
to
would
tell
like.
you
I
want
think
to
you would like it a lot.
yeah, you want to talk about a purist? Just go to the bar. That's what I do.
Well, and dude, I mean, that's I think for a
Yeah.
lot of people, they don't have the confidence to do that.
Yeah.
And that's why this is
Fair.
kind of like a middle ground. It's almost like training wheels.
Yeah.
But you're right. I mean, but think about it. Like you going to the bar and just meeting someone is an
Yeah.
anomaly. Like that's not the majority of people.
Yo,
Online dating has become the majority way people meet
that's correct.
new
Oh,
people, unless it's someone that they see, work with, friend of a friend. Maybe they met at the gym. But the majority of people, it's like I think online dating became the standard way to
yeah.
date.
Yeah, no, it was for a good while, but I think I'm glad to see it's reversing again.
I hope it is. I mean, I'm just going off of one person I talked to. I was like, that's an awesome idea. I should start a
Yeah,
business like that. That
yeah,
sounds
that's
fantastic.
not a bad idea because
Uh,
that is. I mean, it comes back to the family thing. That is something there will never not be a market for. You know what I'm saying? So it is your business instincts are good there. There's never gonna not be a market for people that want to meet someone romantically. You know what I'm saying?
yeah, I mean, as old as time, there's probably been
It's
some form of
yeah,
matchmaking,
exactly.
right?
So
So, I mean, yeah, it's like, again, it's a human impulse, man. We want to be, I think, connected to, another person who becomes our, for lack of a better word, partner in crime, right? Like our partner.
yeah,
Are there people who are more comfortable living the solo and doing their own thing? 100%.
yeah. So
And they shouldn't feel bad, like because
no,
that's
yeah, you're
they
right.
know themselves better, and they're saying, no, I am a better person doing it this way.
Hmm.
Don't tell me how to do it. Like this is how I need to do it. There's nothing wrong with that.
Yeah, that's right. My advice is I am intrigued by that. So definitely send Bobby A the link. I might explore this a
I'll
little
send
bit.
it to you right when we're done. Yeah, no,
Yeah,
100%.
and but if you want to ask me
Yeah, go ahead.
my advice,
Let's finish
I
up with
would
that.
say just do the things you like to do.
Oh
If
yeah, this is
if
this is the Bobby advice. You've given this many
yeah, I've
times. Go ahead.
given
Go ahead.
this to yeah. If you like going to Comic-Con and you have to go alone, don't be afraid to go alone. I mean, obviously, it's more fun if you go with your friends. You could still meet other people, but if you have to go to Comic Con alone, dress up, go alone. If you like watching sports, whatever sport you want, just go watch that sport. Go out and but you the key is you got to leave your house and go outside. If you like literature, join a book club. If you like you get the point that I'm
Yeah,
trying to make.
yeah,
If just go do the things you like to do. If you like I'm not going to call them out, but it's like if you like a certain type of music, go to those concerts. You'll meet people that same type of music, and boom, that's an instant icebreaker right there. So there's there's, especially in New York, you can find, if you like classic rock music, heavy metal, EDM, like dance, electronic, all of that, the hip hop, the pop music, go to those concerts. If you go, this is a good way to circle the wagons all the way back and end it. If you like pop music, go to a Taylor Swift concert, because I guarantee you, if you're a man at a Taylor Swift concert, I mean,
Well,
obviously, I'm not advocating the of age. They must be of age, of course.
oh, okay.
I'm
I was
not
gonna go
advocating
different.
that part.
I was like, there's a high likelihood that you might be gay as well. So,
Yeah, but what? Imagine being a single heterosexual. There's people that do it. There's a
I
big
believe it.
personality that does it. I don't know if he's single anymore though. The the uh, the guy from Barstool, Portnoy, David Portnoy. He's a huge Swiftie, and he's a 46-year-old man that's started a media company, and he's rich, and he goes to Taylor Swift concerts. It's true.
I'm not knocking it. Like,
Yeah, yeah, but
what you
I
like,
would. I
you
mean,
like when it comes to music.
yeah, exactly. I'm not saying.
Interesting brag though from the
Yeah,
very
make sure
beginning. Oh, I went to
everyone.
46. It's like,
Yeah,
well, I don't know if
yeah,
that's the best use of your
I
time.
know. Yeah,
You do you.
exactly. But obviously, I'm not advocating anything
No, of course.
off key. It has
No,
to
no, no,
be
no,
everyone
no,
is
no.
of age. But if you're a single,
Not even on the table.
if
Go ahead.
exactly, if you're a single heterosexual male and you go to a Taylor Swift concert, you're gonna meet someone. I promise you.
I mean, yeah, that's
If you like that, if
it's
that's the
like go
music
take
you
a
like.
ballet class. Like, there's
Yeah,
a high
no,
likelihood you'll be the only, well,
yeah,
straight man
no,
there, probably.
I know what you mean. But that's if you like her music and you're a fan of hers, that's a perfect thing to do. So
Very
that's my
true.
advice. Just do
No,
the summary of the advice is
yeah,
do what you want to do, and you'll find someone there that's also likes doing that thing, and it's
of
easy. It's
course.
so much easier. Yeah,
Yeah, I mean, I think that's been always you've given that advice to me. It's
yeah,
kind of like go, don't. Pretty much, you're saying is like go do the things you want to do, because when you find someone there, they also will like that thing,
correct. And it's an
right?
instant connection.
Rather than meeting someone like on online dating and then hoping that they also have the same interests in you. Do
Right,
the things you like to do, and the people there will most likely also like to do those things.
right.
And have the courage to kind of do it by yourself if no one wants to go with you.
Right, and it's in those environments, people are in a better, like they're in a good mood, the energy is high. So you see what I'm saying? There's a good chance people, they're not just, it's not the same as trying to talk to someone in a setting like a library or
See,
something,
I
or on
realize
the subway. If I'm on the subway and a woman is on the subway, they don't want to be approached, they just want to get home. Yes.
I'm realizing who you're aspiring to be. You're trying to be David Duchovny in Californication. Like that's what you're aspiring to be in
Wow.
your 50s. Like
Yeah,
I just
a
think
writer.
I've parted the red tape, and like that is literally now I know the road you're trying to walk.
I wouldn't mind that. I wouldn't mind that at all.
I would just say, remember, it didn't end well for him.
Yeah, but I wouldn't. Yeah, I wouldn't cheat on my wife, who I have a daughter with,
or be an alcoholic.
Yeah, but I like the idea of being a writer and making the right decisions. Yes,
bro, write that book then, man. Go self-publish it. Stop talking about it.
Yeah.
Do it.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah, that's a good show. That's actually a funny show.
It
jumped the shark a little bit at the end, but
I remember I watched the beginning of it. I like David Duchovny, so I mean,
that's my guy, you know.
And then you're like a David Duchovny. Who are the three actors that would be you at different stages of your life? I can't even think of all their names. David Duchovny would be one.
Would be the middle-aged. Yeah.
Who we talk about? Goldblum would be another.
Goldblum would be the later at life.
Ted Danson. If we could mix those three into and then throw a little Kramer for when you're getting zany. Like if we could mix those four characters, that is Bobby A.
Yeah, it's true. That's a good mix right there.
All right, ladies and gentlemen.
Maybe a little Raul Julia too. A little Raul Julia
hold
for the
on,
Puerto
real quick.
Rican side.
Let me double check this.
You know
Raul
who he is.
Julia. Let's see.
Adams family. He was
Oh
Gomez,
yeah,
Gomez
you're
Adams.
You're not wrong. That's,
Yeah.
that you mix him in there.
Puerto Rican legend Raul Julia. That's how.
All right, folks. This was another episode of the Draxx Life. We'll catch you again next week.
Peace.
Peace.